We're about to see Rise of the Beast. We've got everyone here. Transformers across the Spider-Verse. Daniel, are you excited for Rise of the Beast?
You're missing it, man.
Oh!
What's he doing here?
This ain't your film.
Maybe you should take some time off.
Going on a road trip.
I don't think he knows what movie this is.
Autobots and Maximals, all as one. Maximals, maximize!
Welcome guys, this is Comodin Cam. This is our review of Transformers Rise of the Beasties. After so many years without a Transformers film, it's finally here.
You smile.
Why are you smiling?
I looked over at Lewis and he just could not care.
Everything you cared for will be consumed.
They've never faced anything like this before.
Let them come.
We finally have a Transformers movie in the summer. This is the 7th live action installment now. Obviously coming off from Bumblebee, which was a brand new timeline. 7 years after Bumblebee, we are now in 1994. We are in Brooklyn. And we have the Autobots coming across the Terracons, who are the heralds of Unicron. And Unicron is basically a giant planet-eating monster, and he wants to transwarp into the Earth's solar system so he can consume Earth. And there's a MacGuffin device that the human characters and the Autobots need to get in order to save the planet. What are you laughing at? Is this plot funny to you or something?
He's making me laugh.
Stop making him laugh.
He literally started laughing and starts making me laugh.
Right. So we've just come out of the theatre.
Come out of the closet.
I've watched Daniel come out many times.
We'll all come out together.
We've just come out of the cinemas. We had a whole family with us, and now we're gonna
Just any old
fuck.
We fighting this alone or we fighting it together?
Together.
We'll go from one of us at a time. We'll start off with Lewis. Sounds like a mistake.
The first hour and a half sucked, but then the last half an hour was actually paid off, in my opinion. Like, it paid off for what the pacing was, I guess.
I thought that was quite interesting because I thought the beginning of the movie was actually quite strong, and the third act is what kind of collapsed a bit. It kind of fell apart a little bit in the third act. I still enjoyed the third act. Well, our theatre was quite excited. There was a lot of laughs in this film. A lot of people laughed at...
There was one person in particular I kept hearing.
What? The cuff... Oh, I didn't hear the bloke.
Okay,
There's a guy who laughed at like probably every joke.
fair play to him, he got a lot of enjoyment out of it. I can't take that away from him.
Come on, give me a little tap. Give me a little tap.
There you go, now we're friends.
Daniel, what did you think of the film overall?
I'll be honest, I went in with no expectations. So, to be fair, I didn't come out disappointed.
Was there... yeah.
That's about it.
Is that... Sound, that's the review. That's the video done.
That's all you need to know.
Daniel's opinion is the only one that matters.
It doesn't feel like anything we haven't had before, to be fair. Which isn't necessarily... This may be viewed as a good or a bad thing, but it reminds me a lot of Fast and Furious films, where not, I'm saying the same, I'm just saying they serve the purpose in the sense of they're meant to be entertainment, but...
Yeah.
What else is there to offer?
Yeah, it's difficult to like tell them apart from each other in a way.
The plot line was actually quite predictable.
The problem it has, it's the set of a brand new trilogy. And, you know, I had my mum in the theatre, like, shaking me, like, what does this mean? Like, we know it's a prequel, right? So everything's going to be okay when we get to 2007. And I'm like, it's supposed to be a rebooted timeline to get away. Because with this whole big threat, for people who go into this film and have the Bayverse in their head as canon, they're going to go, oh, they save the world because they come back in 2007 and the whole saga begins. In every one of these Transformers movies, and it's a big problem, they have a MacGuffin device.
Unicron is coming.
I think it's the main issue with everyone thinking it's Bayverse is because of Bumblebee's head. It's just an exact copy. I honestly,
that's your big problem, Lewis.
It's probably everyone's, because you see Bumblebee, you recognize him from the previous movies. But if this movie, because I mean originally it wasn't going to be, but halfway through the marketing of the Rise of the Beasts, they decided to go, oh, it's a completely new timeline, because they were completely, oh it is, oh it isn't kind of thing. They were like dotting around it for a really long time when it came to Bumblebee. And then after Bumblebee released, they had all the references to the first 07 movie, like Sector 7, you had Simmons.
Well, we had to strip most of that away. Like, we had to strip out the end credit scene, which would have revealed Megatron at Sector 7, like, frozen on ice. They had to get rid of that, because they still don't know what they're doing. Stephen Cable Jr., the director himself, did an interview with a YouTuber, Alfonso, and literally said it was a reboot.
It's a reboot for sure. It's a reboot for sure. If the Bayverse, you can still watch the Bayverse and be on your own verse, so to speak. With us, we're definitely like, we want this to work. But yeah, it's definitely a new direction for sure.
But then we've got Lorenzo, who obviously has worked on all of the previous Transformers films, doesn't want to let go of that franchise. But it's like, it took you 5 movies to get it right, and you didn't. And your last movie flopped hard. Yeah, it made money, but in terms of, you didn't really make much money back. The Last Night made barely any profit back. So that's why they were like, oh shit, now we've got to do something with Bumblebee. That's why that Cybertron scene was added, because...
Like, if that scene was like 10 minutes long, you would have probably gotten so many Transformer fans to want to watch that movie so much. And then you would have still came out really good. It was still, like, the Cybertron scene is the main thing from that I always remember, because that was just literally Transformers.
I would say this movie definitely pushes the right direction. It takes, the problem with this movie, and I think a lot of people have been having it, is that it's holding itself back, because you've got a franchise that wants to start new again, but then it's like it wants to follow the Bumblebee direction, like this more heartfelt, this more getting to know the Autobots, because we do get a lot of Transformers in this movie, which was actually like, kind of surprised me how much we did get. The pacing between the human conflict and then the Autobots, we actually did get a lot of dialogue between them, which is good. They are learning their lessons from Bumblebee, but then they're also constantly going, oh, but if we don't do it like Michael Bay, a large majority of our audience aren't going to care about it. Overall, I feel like the movie, it was a summer blockbuster I've been wanting for a long time. Will it land with everybody? No. But I still feel like it needs a structure, because I actually have no idea what the next 2 sequels are going to be. Because they're making a new trilogy. They're supposed to be the Unicron trilogy. So Unicron's coming back.
Okay, here's my thing. I'm not saying this in a bad way, but it's very...
Superhero movie.
That sort of leads into me saying somewhat predictable and generic, but I don't think it's bad at all. And I do think if you're a Transformers fan, and I'm not, and I enjoyed the film, I would recommend going to see it.
I mean, my mum enjoyed it, my sisters enjoyed it. I felt like the pacing was just so bizarre. It's like, it's good sometimes, like it starts out pretty solid, and then it kind of just collapses, because it's like a game of Jenga. And then like, oh, it's like there's a little bit of a shaky part throughout the middle part of the film, and then that causes the rest of it to collapse. You still like enjoy it collapsing, but it's like, come on, you could have done that just a little bit better. You could have been just a little bit neater with that last brick. You know what I mean?
I didn't like the ending.
You didn't like the ending? Well, we'll get into the ending.
I've never liked that sort.
I didn't like the ending at all. It felt too superhero, that did. Too superhero. Okay, so let's get into spoilers now. Let's talk about the opening part of the film.
That Vin Diesel appears.
Yes.
Groot.
We have Groot, we have the Fast Gang come in.
And then he asks Optimus what's it about, and then he says, family.
Optimus Prime says family twice in the movie. I couldn't believe it.
I don't have friends. I got family.
Yeah, no, it is true. I could, because I recently watched the Fast and Furious movies. You can actually see some comparisons, like how Vin Diesel's character Dom has to warm up to Paul Walker's character Brian, and that's how it was with Optimus and the humans.
So let's just talk about how the film begins. It was originally going to be Optimus Prime murder in transit, but instead we got the Maximals, home planet, who we aren't quite sure. They allude to time travel and all this stuff. We assume they are from the future.
Well, they are, because he says his Optimus Prime is named after the legendary Optimus Prime, and he says, I took my name after you.
Yeah.
But and then I'm just there like, Where's this time travel?
What made me laugh is that in the film, Optimus Prime, when they meet, he goes, "He's not the Optimus Prime I know," and I go, "Gee, you think?"
No, I thought he'd be.
Yeah, like he's not the Prime I imagined. I go, "Yeah, you're telling me." He's a complete arsehole in this movie.
I liked it.
For the most part, I did.
It was a different take on Optimus.
I like Arsehole Prime.
What's not to like?
This is why you shouldn't take me to the cinemas. Let them come.
He didn't even come once in the movie.
He did. No, he said it at the end.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he said, "Let him come."
Oh, he did say let them come. So it's just only one guy.
Yeah, it means Unicron. Let him come.
I don't think Optimus Primal ever said, "Oh, you've never faced anything." I thought that
No,
was his
there's
only
a
line.
bunch of scenes that aren't in that.
Yeah, there's like a huge kind of difference between the screening and then the final cut, which obviously happens all the time with these kinds of big movies. They'll always test screen it, and if someone doesn't laugh at a certain thing or they don't react in a certain way, they'll change something drastically. They go into panic mode. But the opening is actually really well paced. Like, I felt like the opening was actually pretty solid. It's obviously just introducing the Maximals because they're not going to appear until later on in the movie. But then you've got Ape Link, who was the laziest design choice, which makes sense because Ape Link is actually a redeco of Optimus Primal in the Beast Wars canon, which makes sense. But it's like, you really couldn't just make him a giraffe or a hippopotamus. Like, make him a different animal, please.
Platypus.
Ape Link would have probably not worked as a name if they changed it.
No, the one thing that did annoy me is that Scourge says, "Oh, you're their strongest warrior," kills him in an easy.
I was just about to mention that fight lasted less than 10 seconds.
You went down pretty quick, bro.
And then you have Prime, who was able to hold his own against Scourge for a little while before he got freaking attacked.
The whole point of that was supposed to show how menacing Scourge is. Like, he's not going to go down easy, which is like, okay,
I saw coming.
I get the message that Scourge is supposed to be this really, like, you know, he's supposed to be this scary threat, and anyone can be taken down. But it didn't work because they said that line that you're the strongest warrior. So it kind of makes you go, okay, if he's the strongest, the rest of the Maximals are just like...
If he was their strongest, how did they last longer?
Well, I wish we saw more Maximals, because there's a line in the movie where Optimus Primal says to Air Razor when they meet up again, which kind of didn't make no sense to me. He was like, "What about the others?" She was like, "I am all that is left." And I'm like, wait, does that mean we're not going to see Rat Trap or Tigatron or Depth Charge or...
I assumed as much, like Rhinox, Cheetor, Primal, and freaking Air Razor. Well,
besides from Optimus Primal, Cheetor got one of the first lines in the movie. You know, he says one line. He actually speaks more than Rhinox. I don't think Rhinox...
No, I don't think Rhinox even spoke.
I think he might have said one line, and I was going to try and remember it in the second screening, but I couldn't hear because some arrogant kid was coughing in the back.
Arrogant. How dare they?
But I felt like the opening was actually pretty emotional, and the title sequence as well was actually pretty cool. I don't know if you caught onto this, you probably did, but they brought back the Unicron melody from the '86 movie. You know, that little kind of like synth.
I did notice that they had Arrivals, essentially, from the first movie playing at the end.
Well, they had Steve Jablonsky come back.
But, I mean, he nailed the Transformer music in the first three, so...
That could be also what confuses fans on, is this connected to Bayverse because it's playing that Bayverse music. I mean, it was a great moment in the movie, but then it also kind of felt a little bit... They did the same thing in The Last Night. The ending of The Last Night, it was the same music. So every music, we're going to have that same score. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I'm not complaining. It's just something you notice. Like, oh, we did the same thing with Last Night. And it's like, it feels like this movie is like trying to repay the debt of the Last Night. So they're just kind of like, you know, okay, this is the music this time, but with a better movie, you know. What was I just about to dive into then, with the Maximals? Yeah, I mean, they were good. Of course, I expected them to have their robot mode showcased at the very last minute of the film. No way we were going to see them with their robot modes like when we first meet them, which kind of make no sense to me sometimes, because it's like Ape Link could have transformed into a robot mode. He probably would have had a better chance fighting Scourge if he was actually a bit more...
Might have lasted 5 more seconds.
Yeah, it might have lasted like 10, 5 maybe.
I mean, if he lasted a few more seconds, it would have been more interesting.
Yeah.
But it's because they had to make it fast-paced. That's, like I said, some of the pacing just drops. And
this is why I felt like an extra couple of minutes could have helped some moments feel a bit more impactful. But I thought the first act was actually pretty solid. I actually cared about the human characters in this.
Oh, I didn't.
The kid was actually a pretty strong actor, I thought.
I liked Noah because his character came off strong, but Elena just felt like she was just there so that they could actually find the key.
Yeah, she was just there for kind of like plot.
I don't mean that anything against the actor. I think she did well. It's just I feel like the way they wrote her character could have been a bit better.
We knew more about Noah than we did about her. We just knew she was clever, and that's it. Maybe that's all we do need to know for the plot, but when it got to the Elena scenes, it was like, oh, okay, now we got to introduce the MacGuffin. You know, we got to introduce the transwarp key.
Yeah, MacGuffin's everyone's favourite.
Yeah, like that entire scene about the authenticity of art pieces. We get it that she's smart, but we could have seen that when she was doing the whole bit to get the key.
Yeah, I feel as though she figured stuff out way too easily and way too quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it
saying.
didn't take a genius to see that, though, the symbols.
Like, you know that bit where they're rotating these stones when they're in the crew? I'm thinking, the hundreds of years that they've been there, no one else even gone like that.
I feel like they wrote her character just so the plot was easier to maneuver.
Yeah, there was no her, like, obviously she's not a detective, but there was no sort of her trying to figure it out. It's just like, oh look, secret passage, let's go down.
Well, when I watched that interview with her, how she talked about how she would talk to Stephen Cable Jr., the director, and actually say, I'm not quite sure about this, I'm not quite sure about that.
And he didn't listen.
Well, I mean, it felt, that's the thing, that's where it felt like some things were changed. So that other things could make a little bit more sense. I felt like she was onto it. I felt like she was kind of onto the fact that a character, probably there was either more of it or less of it, I don't know, but you know, I think she did the best she could do. I did enjoy it.
I don't think she did a bad job at all. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
But anyway, it would have been, like I said, it would have been nice to have Charlie Watson in this, because we do get a mention of Charlie in the film very, very early at the beginning, and I just thought maybe if Charlie was around, Optimus Prime would be less of a grump. But
it was a bit of a dick to humans. I mean, I get.
You brought a human here?
I'm nobody. I ain't even seen nothing. I'm not even seeing anything right now.
I felt more emotion with Noah's character, even though I didn't want a human in this film. I still felt like, oh, he's actually more interesting than Cade or even Wiki, you know. But I actually did care about the humans in this movie, which is strange because you shouldn't be, as a Transformers fan who just wants all Transformers, and we've had so many humans at this point.
Because we've had so many humans, and there's only a few that I can actually stand.
Well, we cared about Charlie, didn't we?
I liked Charlie. Well, you know why I like Charlie.
You have a massive crush on Haley.
Yeah.
Has she returned your calls yet? Oh.
Of course not, because I haven't even.
She'll call, don't worry.
No, it's just, I think she's a cool person. Though.
She's not gonna call.
A little bit nervous.
True.
But I felt like the brother, the story between, I don't remember the brother's name. I should.
Sonic and Tails.
Oh, it was Tails. Chris.
Tails.
I felt like that relationship was actually pretty cool.
But again, the younger brother's got a medical condition.
I didn't know what he had. What was wrong with him? Did he just have a broken hand?
No, he had. So basically, his blood flow wasn't going through his hand properly.
Oh, okay.
I forgot what you actually call that condition, but that's what he essentially had.
Oh.
But no, my main issue was, you know, when he was at the hospital, that scene pulls away, and it made me feel like I was going to be watching a different movie at that second. I understand why they did it. I'm not complaining about it.
Sounds like you are.
Is...
Sounds like you are, mate.
No, the scene didn't feel as necessary.
Yeah. Even though it felt good when Optimus Prime appeared, like my mum was like, you know, shaking my sister's arm, like, oh, you know, it was exciting. It felt like, oh god, could we get to Prime already, please? You know. Of course, this set in the 90s, in 1994, there was a lot of references. We had Tupac that was showcased at the start when Noah's, because he's like a tech engineer, which is what he did in the army, which I thought was kind of cool to showcase that. You know, he's obviously just repairing stuff to sell on the market to get extra cash. But for one thing that really got me, and this is what I was holding in to say for this review, I cannot believe O.J. Simpson is in a Transformers movie. When Noah's going to the interview, there's a guy watching the O.J. trial on his little screen, and when I watched that first time, I was like, "Are you kidding me?" O.J. Simpson.
When you said O.J. was in the film, I thought you meant he was like an extra.
No, like obviously it's an eye to spot. It shouldn't have, but it took me out of the movie for a long time. It was so weird to see him in a Transformers film. Like, I know this is supposed to be set in the 90s, but did you actually have to show that event in the 90s?
Authentic.
That's actually at the top of my notes. Is,
O.J. Simpson.
Yeah, is the OJ reference. That was the first note I made. Yeah. Oh, my second note is Optimus didn't
Marky
even call.
Mark.
Oh, let's not. Yeah, Marky Mark as well makes an appearance.
It was aggressively 90s.
I mean, my favourite part was mainly the music. Because
that music.
I like 90s music. I always have.
Well, I'm a big Nas fan. One of my favourite songs, actually, one of my favourite songs ever is "The World Is Yours." That wasn't in it, but one of Nas's songs were.
Represent, I think it was.
Rise of the Beats.
Yeah, Rise.
Yeah, Rise of the Beast. Yeah, that was good, Daniel. Obviously, let's talk about the Autobots. Let's talk about the Autobots. We get a good amount where we get to know each and every one of them kind of sort of well. The main ones are Optimus Prime, Mirage, and RC. They were like the ones who probably spoke for most. Let's talk about... Actually, you know what? I want to get this out of the way. Yeah. Let's talk about Pablo. I felt like Pablo...
Wheeljack.
Oh.
Yeah, you remember him?
Everyone calls him Pablo because it says Pablo on his doors.
Oh, yeah, that was useless.
Oh, yeah, he was useless throughout the plot. And Stephen Kibble Jr. lied. He said that Wheeljack's look, it would be explained why he looks different compared to Bumblebee, because that's Wheeljack there, Daniel. That's Wheeljack. That's how he looked in the B movie. Obviously, he's very different compared to well, my mum likes camper vans, so she was happy. She actually shook my sister going, oh, it's a camper van. She was happy.
Didn't give a shit what it was.
In my mum's house, literally, there's camper vans everywhere.
Yeah, that's true.
But, yeah, I mean, obviously that face... Oh, so good looking. Now, while I didn't mind the face, it's just the fact that it's Wheeljack. But I've obviously talked about this to death.
Yeah, because, I mean, honestly, they didn't do Wheeljack's character justice, because now that's Wheeljack. I don't mean that in a bad way. It could have been a different character altogether.
It feels like they only made Wheeljack Spanish to make that racist joke. That was it. Because there's a joke where Noah thinks that because he speaks Spanish, he knows, like, they can communicate.
No, he sounds Hispanic. That he thinks, he started saying papi and stuff, and that was like, oh, okay, they're going to speak Spanish. This is cool.
How would he not know? How would Wheeljack not know Spanish if he speaks like that?
Yeah, because I mean, you had Primal speaking like an ancient dialect, I think.
Because in the Bumblebee movie, he sounded like, there's too many of them. Like, he had that voice.
I've lost contact with the capital!
Too many of them! Like, he had that voice, but in this one, he's like, ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. Why did we actually need Wheeljack, except from those big glasses where he zoomed in, gave a little bit of details about Peru, but he didn't... They could have figured that out all on their own. He didn't actually do anything.
I mean...
Just feels like fan service.
Yeah, well, they did the fan service things with the fins, which appeared in only one shot, but they weren't in the rest of the battle, which kind of makes me wonder... Yeah, it was like, oh, do we like enhance hearing or something? Is it gonna make his battle mask?
Is there a reason?
There isn't one.
My issue is also you had RC who scanned Noah and found all his information with that visor thing.
Yeah.
And then you've got B with his battle mask. And we learned a lot about that in the Bumblebee movie, that could scan tactically as well. So you basically had two characters that did the exact same thing Wheeljack did, but they used Wheeljack to make it the thing. Like, I didn't feel like he was the Wheeljack all the fans wanted, which is he's the inventor. He creates the weapons. Didn't feel that vibe from him at all. So.
Regular audiences won't care, of course, but fans do care, and it just feels like Pablo is a weird creation to kind of like a character that I felt. Actually, you know what? It kind of feels like because of the fan backlash, his scenes might have been reduced. Because they were worried that if you had more of him, fans would be upset.
But the problem with that is reducing them sort of added to the problem.
They would have solved the entire issue if they just named him a different bot. It would have just completely made the best idea.
Because you have certain expectations, don't you?
Yeah. Literally, that is Wheeljack. That's the Wheeljack I thought we were going to get when I heard that. Oh, Wheeljack's in Rise of the Beasts. I was like, oh, cool. He's going to look similar to that design. Because Bumblebee does. RC does, freaking Prime does, so why not Wheeljack?
You know, we've got Bumblebee, which is a mix between canons, just to please people who love Bumblebee so much in the Bayverse. You know what I mean? I guess we could talk about Bumblebee a little bit. Well, he was very...
That was anticlimactic.
I mean, we'll dive into Bumblebee, because Bumblebee was barely in the movie. Bumblebee is fine not being in the movie so much for me because we had a movie of him last time. So if you watch Bumblebee, then this film, it makes more sense and his death is more impactful.
Yeah.
But if you watching this for the first time, you're kind of like, Bumblebee, he's not actually in this one quite a bit, which is fine. I'm actually fine with that. But it felt like his death was a little bit of a, we know he's not going to die.
Yeah, that, and I also knew he was going to die because it was basically there in the trailer.
But I will give them credit, that scene was so good. I felt emotional. His eyes going big, with the, when you get
one
stabbed.
thing that did piss me off with that is that Optimus was basically just there on the floor. I would have at least loved him to get one more shot in.
I would have loved to have seen him struggle. I would have actually loved to see him go, no! Like, how he, lost his shit in Prime.
In Fall of Cybertron,
Yeah.
when B got hit, B's, going for, in front of Megatron's cannon, and then he blasts, and then Optimus gets hit by a Bumblebee with him, and he's just there, realizing, and then he just smashes Megatron. That moment, regardless, it would have been the best thing ever if Prime was able to at least attempt another shot.
Yeah.
If he failed, it failed.
Yeah.
But he would have got it.
There was an attempt.
I mean, he got a little bit mad. He threw, a truck or something. Or he kind of just yeah.
That's just what I want to bring up quickly. At the start where Mirage is trying to escape the police, how many innocent police officers got killed?
Well, we actually...
No, probably not killed.
Okay.
It's severely.
I'd imagine quite a few are severely injured for no reason.
So the way how Nowhere Mirage... Okay, I guess we could... I
I didn't actually mind that dynamic. I mean,
they were fun.
I know that everyone has their opinions about Pete Davidson, but he actually played Mirage to a good extent that I actually made me go, oh, he's not actually that bad.
But I gotta admit, he actually did give a really good performance in this. I didn't... When I was watching it first time, of course, this is getting to know a new character. He was a lot more enjoyable, Mirage, on the second watch. I felt like because I felt like in my head I was pacing myself with the Mirage jokes a little bit better. Because at first he's kind of talking too much. And I feel like there's some dialogue in this that I wish they just cut a few two lines. Because Mirage was talking a bit too much in some parts of the movie. But I was really kind of like, wow, okay. Pete Davidson as an actor, he really brought his A game to this. His character has the most dialogue in the film.
The most development as a character.
Yeah, he's more developed, and they kind of did a number on us. I thought he was dead, and that's why I didn't like it. Felt like they kept, is he dead? Is he not? And it felt...
That was one thing. I didn't want Mirage to be dead, but I actually quite enjoyed the idea, but then
I would have preferred him dead as to what happened next.
because he was upholding his promise to Chris, the little brother, and I was just there like, I respect that. That was a good character arc for him to. It's not cool that he died, but it felt necessary and it was fitting, yeah. But then when they did bring him back, I was like, oh, okay, they brought him back. But I was just there like, how did he survive at the same time? Scourge killed people with less than one blast. He took a bunch of them and he had his limbs blasted off and everything. So I was just a bit...
It was weird because Mirage is... He's a character that has these unique abilities. He has so many different abilities that he does with holograms and all that kind of stuff, and he can morph his body.
He can change his entire vehicle.
Yeah, and
which for me was cool because they referenced his G1 model, but they also referenced side swipes, and I was just there like, that's one thing we're missing. I wouldn't have minded side swipes or Sunstreaker. I think actually it might have been the Sunstreaker's Lamborghini.
Yeah, they teased us really bad with a F1 car. I was like, you bastards.
I was there like...
What we could have had.
It takes away the hit of it when you just go thinking, they're going to bring him back. They're not going to die.
We teased Bumblebee's death, which is like, okay, we know B's not dead. But then Mirage dead, it's like, oh shit, I actually felt that one. And then he doesn't die, and it's like...
One thing I just want to bring up, at the very end where Optimus Prime is about to sacrifice himself, very climactic moment, immediately undercut when they save him.
I was actually hoping that...
He was dead.
Not that Optimus died.
Honestly, I was hoping that they were all dead.
I was hoping that when Optimus blew up and stuff and he was all getting sucked up, that he actually got sucked into the thing onto the other side, and they teased that as an end credit scene. That would have been the most interesting thing, because...
I honestly would have preferred the same thing.
I laughed so hard first time watching when Unicorn's like pleading with Prime, "No, Prime, I will give you anything you want." She's like, "Then die." Blows up. And I thought that was so badass, but I laughed so loud instead of going, "Yeah, that's a Prime." But wow, that's like a little bit of Bayverse creeping in.
This is Optimus. If he wasn't so
Prick.
no, if he wasn't so self-content with himself, like this feels like a more relatable character because everyone
has flaws.
Yeah, he has more flaws. Like Optimus, obviously he's the best of the best, but it's nice to see him for once not actually be that guy again.
At the beginning of the film, he's very arrogant, and I was wondering for the moment where it would switch. And it switched when Elena got captured, which is like, okay, that's probably a moment to realize, because he's trying to plea with Noah. He wants the Transwarp Key to get back to Cybertron so he can, continue the war with the Decepticons. In the B movie, the initial plan was to regroup and retake their home. And then Prime was like, "Oh, I think I've gone too far out. I shouldn't have come to Earth, it's too far." And I'm like, how did he not know? How did he not predict that they won't be able to get back? By regrouping to another planet where it seemed like they were in those pods.
I mean, they had the protoform type pods.
And there's more pods, by the way, so it's like there's more characters. I thought there was 7. I'm pretty sure there was 7.
I mean, Stratosphere came out of nowhere, literally. It's like, you had Stratosphere, which I think he's more of a modern Transformer, isn't he?
He was an old bastard, wasn't he? Like, he had a beard and everything. Stratosphere, why was he not in the final battle?
He was sort of, but I think it's because he was an old bot.
No, I mean, like, if he had just charged, like, he could have body slammed a bunch of freezers because he's so big. It would have saved a lot of time.
Who was that one in Revenge of the Fallen? That
Jetfire. I was like, oh, you could have made this guy a Jetfire, but then I was like, oh, but he was also an old guy as well. And
it just seems like they've copied that character anyway.
I don't know if you picked up on it, but you know when Optimus first gets on the bridge with Noah, when he's all suited up? They did the Optimus Prime poster pose from 07.
Oh, yeah.
I was just there like, okay, I'll respect it. It's a nice nod.
There were a lot of good moments that landed, a lot of cool moments.
My only issue with Prime, I don't like his face that much. I get that it's styled after Peter Cullen, but I don't know why. I just love it with his battle mask.
It's always been like that, though. Peter Cullen has always been... People were like going, "Oh, they're finally putting Peter Cullen's face on Prime." That's been like that from the start. They've just obviously tweaked it over the time of the course of the movies. But they did it with all the other characters. Mirage's face is like Pete Davidson's, and RC's character is much like that YouTuber name who I am unfortunately forgetting. Let's talk about RC a little bit. There's little to talk about. She was cool. She did some good moments. She's very small. Yeah, she was small. She managed to fit into Wheeljack pretty well.
I was a bit annoyed. Yeah, that didn't make any freaking sense. Personally, she was quite tall in my opinion. Yeah.
And she was sort of like crouched down, but like the same height as the humans, I think.
I did like her though. I did enjoy her character. She was a badass.
I don't know why, but I kind of wanted it to be blue. I don't know. I think it's because Prime rubbed it off on me, but I also like her as blue, but I also like her as pink because she was like reddish.
Well, you had a little bit of pink on the arms. Yeah. The design is there, like it's good. People expected her and Pablo to have this sort of dynamic because they seemed really close in the film. They were. But
they had a few shots where they were.
She was literally inside him. At one point.
I liked that reference as well with Mirage.
You laughed quite a lot in the film
because when in Mirage you said, "Bro, you've been inside me." I was just there like, because it's when they're saying, "Oh, he's just a work friend." Bro, you were inside. I was just there like, what the
There were some, that's the thing. Okay, I guess we'll kind of talk about the humour of the film. Pete Davidson is a comedian, so it kind of works. But some jokes landed, some jokes didn't. Some were corny as hell, but some of them, on the second watch, I actually laughed again at some of the jokes. My mum laughed, my sisters were laughing. People were laughing at the film. Most of it Mirage. Obviously, the part where he gives Noah a piece of him, and it's alluded to that it's...
no, he just says, "Don't ask where it's from." No, he doesn't mean it's his dick.
He does mean it's his dick.
It's heavily alluded to.
Yeah.
That's the joke.
That's where Michael Bay on the set of this movie, did Michael Bay kind of creep? Because he did appear on set for one day. He actually appeared on set.
Kicked off.
What kind of annoyed me a little bit was the humour would sometimes go a little bit... You'd have like a really serious moment, and the next minute it'd be like a really jokey moment. Like Bumblebee's death, Bumblebee's just died, and Optimus Prime's obviously pissed. And then like Mirage is like, "Who are you again?" Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, it didn't take me out of the film so much, but there were some jokes that were kind of like, yeah, kind of just keep this moment quiet. You know, just just give us a serious moment, give us emotion.
Bit off topic, but I sort of had that same problem with Guardians of the Galaxy, the most recent one. They have serious moments, but they just couldn't let them play out as serious moments. It's like, these need to be funny.
These kind of movies nowadays, if it's not making the audience laugh like every 2 minutes, they're losing people's interest. Well, let's talk about the action of the movie, because the movie gathers a lot of action.
Explosions.
I felt like it paced the action kind of well. I felt like it was obviously gearing up for the final battle, which visually, the final battle, it looked very dull looking. You know what I mean?
It did seem like they just procedurally generated everything.
Like, you know when they are leaving Peru, when they're on that highway kind of chase, because you can actually see the characters a lot better. Because it's only a few characters fighting. Of course, the final battle was a bunch of like these little mini freezers, all these minions.
I think they just made the army a little too big.
There was just too much to kind of look at, which is like, okay, I'm kind of losing track now. Like, I'm trying to focus on Cheetah and Rhinox doing really cool things, but then you've got these ugly silver things in the background that's just distracting you looking at this yellow cat and this fucking Rhinox. You know, you want to see these guys highlight. Don't get me wrong, it's like, it's cool to see them smash it.
There's a lot going on.
But it would have been a lot cooler to have, like, because the Terracons are such a threat in this movie. We hear Nightbird speak, we hear Battletrap speak. It would have been nice to kind of go back, oh, they're that much of a threat where they need multiple characters teaming up against them. Like we need Rhinox and Cheetah to attack Battletrap.
That's also another thing I have an issue with. Nightbird took her out too quickly, in my opinion. The same thing with Battletrap. I liked how they killed Battletrap because you had Primal come in, smash him up, and then he just kept going. Made me go, oh, that's clearly Kong. They clearly referenced
just Prime's
Kong
like,
a bit.
he was mine.
Someone give me a real fight! It's a fight you want? You got one. He was mine.
That's what I'm saying. I like the out of character.
You
Optimus.
laughed at that. I heard you go, yeah, you like it when he's just a fucking maniac.
I don't know why. I do like Optimus in a different tone for once.
It's somewhat different, isn't it?
He's too stoic sometimes in other things. I love that about him, but I just feel like he could have more.
More to kind of dive into, but I felt like sometimes Prime didn't need to speak. You just had to look at his face to know what he was feeling. You know, there was sometimes, like when we were inside Stratosphere and he's just there, like, looking.
Your scene speak for itself in a way.
But, that's the thing, in this movie, and I guess this is the only movie where it got away with a bit of Bay vs. Prime creeping in. Like, when we're on the highway chase, it was so epic and cool, where Mirage is like, what are you going to do, Prime? He's like, I'm going to take back the transwarp key. And then with Scourge, I'm going to take off his head.
Yeah.
Which is like... Peter Cullen said at a TFCon that there would be some lines that Michael Bay would want him to say, and he said that it didn't feel right.
And there was only one director that ever told me, he said, well, just say it anyway. I want to have it. I want to have it. I just don't feel comfortable. So, well, listen, just read the line. And it's just not Optimus, you know? It wasn't Optimus. I'll kill them all.
But in this movie, he kind of says far worse shit.
Yeah.
So it's like, were you okay with this, Peter Cullen?
I think it's because he understands this Prime's a different.
Yeah, they needed to do that because Prime's regretful, he's remorseful because he feels bad because there are Cybertronians, there are Autobots dying on Cybertron while he's on Earth not doing anything.
He's stranded most of his team.
So it makes sense.
One thing that's always annoyed me is why they use weapons that are so ineffective against each other. You're just shooting them with bullets. It's not doing anything.
I mean, they explain in the film that Scourge has got like this incredible amount of power. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about Terracons then.
Generic.
Let's talk about Scourge. He was generic, but he actually spoke a lot, which annoys me because I wish he survived. I wish we could have one big baddie that actually survives into the... The music was so on point like that.
Like he's in the background.
It made me think a bit of like Lockdown. That's
Yeah.
where, like I said, I think
'Cause
this
Lockdown
movie
worked in
did
that movie.
take a lot from the previous movies. Where I think it also made the movie fail in some spots, but sometimes it was cool to see him. The one thing about Scourge, he looked like the Last Night design of Optimus. When you look at him from the back,
Bringing that theory. You're bringing up that theory.
but I honestly do see it because you see the shoulder pads kind of look like it, but it was mainly his back angle.
It's what Bay vs. Prime became.
Yeah.
If the movie's carried on that
you
way.
said your enemies of past and future. It made me think, alternate
Well,
timeline.
Yeah. Well, they
could've
didn't
worked.
do it because if they did that, it could go one or two ways. Fans would be like, "Oh, that's cool," or "That's fucking horrible." Why would you do that? Because people love Bay vs. Prime. I like Bay vs. Prime.
I like the design. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the 1 to 3 design is peak. When Scourge's face came off, people thought his head looked like Bay vs. Prime. So you know when his mask came off, when he was knocked off?
I
thought it was gonna be like a Bay vs. Prime look.
I was
but now
actually
it's-
wondering what his face was going to look like when that was kicked off because I never saw anything of it.
It's more like the Fallen from Revenge of the Fallen.
Yeah, it didn't look as much Cybertronian for
It didn't
this.
even look really menacing to me.
Yeah, it just looked like a scarred face of some sort, but he didn't feel like he was a Transformer at that point when he had his head off.
If Scourge had survived into the next film, it would have kind of felt more like he is not so easily defeated after all, because there's always got to be Optimus Prime ripping someone's face off. You know how Scourge collects insignias? Optimus Prime collects faces.
Which is arguably cooler.
It's cool, don't get me wrong.
No, the one thing I did like is that he attaches it to him, and then his vehicle at the front shows off the insignias he's collected.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
That was I was like, oh okay. I mean, I don't get how, from a designer's perspective, that fucking works, but
It looks cool, don't question
He's supposed to be
it looks
evil.
cool.
The Terracons were actually used to a great effect. They were actually like a good gang. They were like they wanted to not do it too badly.
I'm a bit annoyed that it's like they're shortening the teams that we're going again.
This is what I was going to go into. They wanted it to be like Shatter and Dropkick. They wanted them to feel like, okay, if we have a lot of Decepticons, it's going to feel a bit redundant. Which is why we both, all three of us, have agreed that we didn't like the final battle cannon fodder. Because there was just too much going off, where it's like, okay, you were great with these three. Because they felt powerful and
I would have been fine if it was just a few extra bots.
I didn't mind freezers, the two freezer bots. That was alright. Yeah. It kind of felt redundant the second time because we already dealt with one the first time. But the second time was like, we actually got a lot of good jump scares in this movie as well. The freezers, yeah, they delivered on the jump scares with the freezers. Like, it was kind of scary him being at the top of the museum, and then you've got the other one where it shits everybody up in cinemas. There was like a person in front of me that went.
I mean, I saw it coming, so.
Okay, whatever. I want to talk about the Max Wars, and it feels kind of strange we're talking about these kind of sort of last with the characters, but it makes sense because they were barely in it.
It's the rise of the beast.
Yeah, it was supposed to be Rise of the Beast, but it felt like redundant beasts. It felt like there's some beasts in here. Now, Beast Wars is a really good cartoon series, and it was the first piece of Transformers media that made the Transformers feel like actual characters because they were given interconnected plotline that would follow throughout the seasons. And most people's first time seeing Transformers was Beast Wars, so they would always be sort of confused about the other Transformers. But now it's taken up to 7 movies, and we have the Beast Wars. It's here. And I gotta admit, Ron Perlman as Optimus Primal, while I love Gary Chalk, and I still think he should have been in this movie, either way would have gone for me, because I think Ron Perlman did a way better job than Power of the Prime's Optimus Primal. Because it felt like Ron Perlman was like half asleep in Power of the Primes, because he previously voiced Primal in a Machinima short series, and it was lacking that emotion and weight in his voice, and we got that this time, and I actually really like Ron Perlman, which it makes me so conflicted because I love Gary Chalk's Optimus Primal, but then this one, I wanted to know more about this guy. Then we got Cheetor and Rhinox, who we got more Cheetor than Rhinox, which is unfortunate because Rhinox is actually one of the most interesting Beast Wars characters. He actually goes through quite a lot in the Beast Wars saga, and it's kind of a shame that he's redundant. I knew for a fact by just seeing the posters and the promotions, and just even before we even got a trailer, they were not going to be highlighted as much in their robot modes, which kind of underplays it a little bit. In the Beast Wars cartoon, it made sense why we had to have beast modes. That's why we get a lot of monkey butt in Beast Wars, because Optimus Primal needs to protect himself. In this, it felt like They didn't explain why they always needed to be in their beast modes.
Me, I felt like it was a personal preference. Because
guess,
their
yeah.
planet looked very vegetated, but with some cyber aesthetics to it. I just thought, they probably prefer their beast modes because that's the terrain of the planet they're from. Like, if they were a robot on that planet, it would be much harder for them to do it.
Big ass gorilla though, isn't it?
It makes sense that it's Rise of the Beast, so they're gonna look like beasts.
Don't get me wrong, I'm alright with that. I just wish we got, like, you know, when Optimus Prime actually sees, when Optimus Prime and Optimus Prime will meet for the first time, I wish that Primal actually transformed, like, and actually, like, they could actually talk, because then when they charge into battle, what annoys me is they also cut out the Maximal's Maximize scene. He just says, Rhinox and Cheetor Maximize. It's like, wait, so we have Rollout, which doesn't make sense for beasts, because...
No, I thought, you know, when he said Maximals, Autobots, I thought when he was going to say Rollout, he was going to say Maximize.
Yeah.
I literally thought that would have actually been cool, because you would have had two types of people in that thing going Rollout or Maximize, depending on their preference and the generation.
It's a nitpick for sure, and we're being pricks about this, but when they say Rollout and when they say Maximize, they transform. If they said it, none of the Autobots transformed, which they should have. Like, I'm sure RC's the only one that does transform.
But he also failed to do the Rhinox thing.
Well, actually, no, he did.
Hey, 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 hey! Not so fast! Ay, ay, ay.
Cheetor is a really enthusiastic character as well. He's a very arrogant kid, and then he grows. But this, he just seemed like
Just a well-grizzled fighter.
he was just a chill dude.
You know, it was like, sorry, brother. And it was like, I didn't wet myself. It's engine oil.
Mirage with the jokes.
Yeah, it was actually a good one. It was like, I didn't wet myself. That's engine oil. And it's like, that's funny because you wouldn't have expected someone to ever throw that kind of joke into a robot, but they did, and they pulled it off quite well.
I felt like Rat Trap was sacrificed so that we could get Mirage as the comedic relief. And who wants to see a giant ass rat walking around?
Definitely do.
It would have helped the Maximals be a bit more, because they're all wise and stoic, and it's like, get Rat Trap in there to kind of balance out that, because that's what Mirage is to the Autobots, and it's like,
But then again, if you'd had both of them,
Yeah, if you had two, it's a bit like how you have Thor and Peter Quill and Rocket and Drax.
I just think it would have worked for the dynamic, because we could have had some good moments between Rat Trap and Mirage. You know, Mirage making rat jokes and Rat Trap making, like, you know, jokes at him. While I wasn't, like, begging for Rat Trap, it feels weird having the original cast there without him, because, I mean, it's Rat Trap. He's a quirky character, and I feel like he would have added a lot more of a personality to the Maximals, because obviously we didn't hear Rhinox speak all that too much at all, which was a shame.
I quite enjoyed the first battle because you had Bumblebee actually being a badass, how he dodged Battle Trap's wrecking ball thing coming in, and he was actually looking like a well grizzled, like, you know how in Prime they made him become a warrior. I felt.
Sorry, I zoned out for 1
Oh,
minute.
for fuck. You know Battle
Grizzled
Trap,
yeah.
because he has the freaking like the wrecking ball attack thing.
Yeah.
Like that reminded me of Bulkhead, but beyond that. When they were in the first fight scene where they were at the museum,
Yeah.
B dodged it like a pro. Like he literally predicted it, and he looked cool, and it made me feel like B was a scout in the first movie. He's a warrior now, like a bit of reference to Prime, how he evolved to be a warrior class.
Well, because RC got hit quite a lot in this movie. Like, she got hit.
Yeah, she got shot once.
Like, I'm pretty sure Battle Trap, like, got that pillar and, like, whacked her.
I was hoping she'd have arm blades as well.
Yeah, she only had a little blaster things. Because all the Transformers in this movie have, like, kind of arm cannons.
That are borderline ineffective.
I didn't like Optimus's design for it, but I didn't mind B's as much. I didn't mind Pablo Wheeljacks or RC's. I quite enjoyed Mirage's for some reason. His cannon designs, like, you know, when he was just using one, it was kind of slow, but then he used two at once, and it literally, they became rapid fire and everything. I was like, that was actually quite a cool progression for his blasters.
The inspiration of that would be, well, for Cybertron games. They've been doing it recently with a new line, bringing the studio series by adding this gimmick. Shit gimmick on this toy line. They're also doing it with Rise of the Beast, the Optimus Prime figure, the studio series Optimus Prime Rise of the Beast. It's the tiniest little gun though. It's so small and it's not as big as it is in the movie. Optimus Prime's got an iconic rifle cannon. He's got his iconic axe. But that cannon just took me out of the movie sometimes. It's just a quick, easy thing to animate. Instead of him, like, getting it from his back. I feel like it would have been a lot cooler. Because it actually felt like he was a soldier in the B movie. Because it's like, yeah, he could literally lose his cannon. He could lose it and he could be fucked. But he's never really screwed so much in this movie because he can just whip it out. And
I did enjoy. I did enjoy the transition where Optimus blacked out. No, brought out the battle axe like in the first scene. I was just there like, oh, he's just gonna bring out another blade, and then he literally it turned into the axe, and then I was just like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then you had B who tried to use it as well. That was interesting.
It failed massively.
The reason I find it funny is because you know when B's on the ground dead, and Optimus Prime says the words, "It cannot be," and then it.
That's what I said in the car.
It cannot be. Overall, yeah, I think the CGI was actually pretty good. They nailed a lot of it. It felt really good, and it was great. I felt like the CGI looked way better at night because they have the effect of the shadows and the sort of like the light. In broad daylight,
you can hide the bad CGI.
Yeah, you can hide it a lot better. You can mask it. That's why the whole night sequence was so beautiful to look at. It was hard to hear the second time because we had a coughing kid in the background. Don't bring your kids to the cinemas if they've got health issues.
I mean, the kid didn't cough for like the first hour.
Just health issues.
Don't bring
if they're dying.
If they're
No,
dying.
it's just the kid. I think the kid drank something. It went down the wrong pipe, and he was just coughing for so long.
I want to bring up one point. How have none of them been noticed? That's something that's always.
Oh yeah. Oh okay.
Red Nightbird fly up in Peru, and I'm just there like, no one's gonna notice.
It's something that's always bothered me about Transformers movies altogether. Is like they've been hiding for ages. How? But in this one, it's like saying, "Oh, no one knows about it." It's like there's fucking giant robots.
Yeah.
Stood in broad daylight.
I mean,
there's someone around. People in the city were looked up to the hill.
I guess it's kind of weaving in a little bit. G.I. Joe. The movie ended so well up to that point.
I mean, I get why they did it.
I don't.
They had to have some sort of secret organization, and I really was hoping it wasn't Sector 7.
Well, that's the thing. It was originally Sector 7.
That's what I'm saying. I knew it was going to be, and that's what it felt like. And then when it came up with G.I. Joe, I was like, oh, okay, this could be interesting.
No.
I didn't think that.
No.
I mean, I haven't got an issue. I haven't got an issue with G.I. Joe.
That felt like a Marvel movie.
No, that scene, it was a Marvel movie, no doubt. But I think it's because they want to do a G.I. Joe movie, probably.
But why do it? Why tease it here?
Well, that explains why.
Because originally,
Hang on, let me do that again.
in the original comics, G.I. Joe did team up with the Autobots.
In comics only.
Yeah, and then you had Cobra.
I think it should have stayed that way.
Well, they were spotted, like they were being watched, obviously by, because it's, yeah, you're right, like how are people not noticing this? Well, G.I. Joe was spying on him, and it makes you go, wait, if they were spying on him this whole time, why weren't they trying to help the end of the world?
Because they probably didn't realise at the time.
There was a giant planet coming.
It seemed like a problem.
You got a giant unicorn is entering the atmosphere.
They probably didn't have all the information until the end, kind of thing.
I thought this was Lorenzo Di Bonaventuro's idea because he's been a producer of those films. So I thought, Lorenzo, what are you up to? You and your dirty tricks. You're trying to... Because obviously the last movie of G.I. Joe, Snake Eyes, that bombed at the box office. It was 40 million. So it wasn't Lorenzo Di Bonaventura who pitched the idea. It was actually Stephen Cable Jr. himself. They kept trying... Because originally it was going to be Sector 7. But then halfway through the film, Stephen was like, how about we make it G.I. Joe? Because obviously he's trying to push this to be a reboot. So if we make it Sector 7, it's going to make people more convinced it's not a reboot. And it's like, that's the last thing you want. So we have G.I. Joe in it. It's kind of laughable in a way because now G.I. Joe needs Transformers to make a profit. So G.I. Joe can't...
Which is never a good start.
Yeah, like, G.I. Joe can't stand on their own. I don't mind it if they know how to play it right, but the problem is that now it's going to take away too much from the next few sequels, because it's like, oh, okay, now we need G.I. Joe to save the day. It would have been better if we had Unicron say some shit in space going, I'll be back, bitches, or something like that. You know, like how the Armada series ended, where we have Unicron and then he would appear in the next series, Energon. You know, it would have been cool to have that kind of like, the threat is still out there. But thing is with the G.I. Joe ending, it's like they're planning a crossover between Transformers and G.I. Joe. So is the next Transformers film going to be Transformers G.I. Joe? When's this Transformers G.I. Joe crossover supposed to come out?
Rise of G.I. Joe.
How will it work?
Return of G.I. Joe.
Revenge of G.I. Joe.
It's like it's very confusing.
Dark side of the G.I. Joe.
The last G.I. Joe.
Age of G.I. Joe.
I hope Noah doesn't go to G.I. Joe. Noah deserves better.
Like I said, I think it's just to throw something else that's Sector 7 but not Sector 7. I think the only reason I like the idea of it is because you could have Charlie come back through it.
I knew he would find a way to bring Haley back.
I'm all in, Haley. I will get you in. She deserves it. She's loved Bumblebee. So I don't get why she doesn't get a chance to be in it. Like, honestly.
She'll reply to you one day.
She wanted to return to it.
No, and you want her to return to it.
If they're smart, because she was a liked human character, because she might be a bit older now, I think that's the only reason why they didn't have her in it, because they'd have to age her up a bit.
Yeah, maybe.
That's literally why. Oh, I've just realised that's why they didn't have her in the movie, because they'd have to age her up, because it's 7 years.
I mean, Haley's 25 anyway in real life, but they had her playing a teenager.
She's 25.
How do you know?
No, it's because of a song Coast.
You listen to that all the time, don't you? That's your ringtone.
Oh no, it's pretty chill.
Let's test if it's his ringtone.
It's not. It's actually Alive from Spider-Man.
I knew it. Let's talk about that post-credit scene where Vin Diesel shows up at the end and all the Autobots transform in front of him, and he starts driving. And then Optimus Prime transforms and looks at Vin Diesel and goes, "Family."
And then Vin Diesel just smirks at him like,
yeah, he's like, "I'm gonna make a multi-billion-dollar movie." Yeah, okay, so that's the thing. The post-credit scene or mid-credit scene, it's technically mid-credits because it plays minutes right after. We just got Mirage getting fixed up, confirming that he's alive, which was, a fun moment. So with this being a rebooted timeline, this is how we're talking about. We're not talking about it like it's connected to Bayverse, even though the director says you could still think of it like if you wanted to, because they're not going to directly ever really say much to make it not seem that way. But with Megatron, it's like, this is a brand new timeline. We have the Bumblebee movie that has Starscream, Shockwave, Soundwave, Blitzwing, all these big character Decepticon names, and not a single word of Megatron yet, and this is the start of a brand new trilogy. Now, I'm not saying I want Megatron a lot, but if they had just teased where he is, like say he's coming to Earth, like he says, Decepticons, I found Prime. Maybe the battle on Cybertron is over. Maybe Megatron
That's
won.
what I was saying.
That would have been just cool. But I feel like the character that they might do, the big baddie, Cyclonus. Because it makes sense. They did Scourge for Unicron, and they need another Herald of Unicron, another minion save, Cyclonus. So in the original 1986 movie, Unicron reformats Megatron into Galvatron, and he gives him new minions out of other dead Decepticons. We got Cyclonus and Scourge. Scourge, out of all the characters in the franchise, Daniel, has had multiple different designs, which is why people weren't too fussed about his design in this film, because it's like he's had so many multiple, it's fine. But it's like, okay, now we've got Scourge, next one's going to be Cyclonus. But then it's like, if we had let Scourge survive, and then we had Cyclonus... What is so funny?
I was just remembering when we roasted you before we went into the movie.
Fuck off.
I don't know where.
This is the issue with my brain.
They've been horrible to me. Because I've been gaining a little bit of weight. I've been healthy, guys. I'm actually healthy now, but people are like calling me a pork belly.
No, I'm not saying that. It's just different because you've not been fat before. It's just interesting.
I'm not fat. I'm getting muscle. Who cares? We're talking about Cyclonus.
Haley Steinfeld, you want him now.
Right,
the
shut
main
up.
character from Miami Vice.
So,
Hawaii Vice.
but yeah, overall, that's the soundtrack. Let's briefly talk about the soundtrack. But the Scourge sound where he's like,
I think I heard it, but I can't.
it was like proper. Oh shit!
What you were doing sounded like Purge. It was just like.
Anyway, would you recommend this movie?
If you're a fan of Transformers, then yes, I definitely would.
If you want to see robots beat shit out of each other, yes.
But what if I'm a Fast and Furious fan? Would I want to go see it? Dan.
Oh yeah.
Here's me thinking this movie was less like Fast and Furious and less like the Bayverse, and then the more we talked about it, it's like
It's more
Well,
like...
you've ruined
I
it.
would say this, Michael Bay's universe was definitely closer to what Fast and Furious is now.
It feels like the opposite. It feels like Fast and Furious are copying Bayverse. It feels like they're because the stunts and
not our
stupid
fault, actually,
the stunts and stupid tricks they do now, and I've seen bits of it from the latest one, especially where it looks so bad. Like I can't. It's so laughable. Like how.
No, I don't want to listen about the 10th one yet. I haven't watched.
No, I've just seen clips and scenes of like stunts being made and Vin Diesel being a fucking Optimus Prime. Like he's a tank. Like he gets fucking hit, and in all these movies he's been hit. Like we saw it in
Some
the
of
trailer.
it is a bit...
I saw a trailer of Fast and Furious where Vin Diesel lifts up a car, and I'm like,
So technically that car's very light, I think.
Yeah, that car's very light, so I'm just gonna flip that.
he's like, he says in the trailer, he goes, "You may have taken my family, you may have taken my kids, but one thing you didn't take, my car." And he's like, fucking everybody up.
There's Vin Diesel.
I know you're one of them now. You're a son. Oh my god. You really are a family guy. Anyway. Overall, in Transformers Rise of the Beast, for me,
That's what we were trying to talk about.
is the first act is solid, the second act shows a little bit of a cracks, and then the third act kind of falls apart, but it picks itself up towards the end when you actually are enjoying all the character moments like Optimus Prime and Noah, even Noah getting that suit. While it was a corny scene, I actually really enjoyed it. You know, with Mirage, like, you know, you take the wheel and then he's got this whole suit now, and he kind of adapted to
I
it.
look like a shitty Power Ranger.
That's the only thing
Yes, he did. The CGI was a bit rough on that.
That's why I didn't like it.
I went in with no expectations and I enjoyed it. Mainly for the ending, because the ending felt like it paid off. The movie made the rest of the movie pay off a lot more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do agree with the development of the characters were much more fluid, I want to say. Fluid.
Yeah, you know what? I would place it pretty high in Transformers films. I feel like they just need to commit to that, the same thing Bumblebee did. Because Bumblebee was allowed to be this self-contained story and was allowed to be more creative in its freedom. But I feel like with these big, because they obviously expect big action, it's a Transformers movie. But then it's like, can I give us more of these? That's why I felt like it could have done better with a bit of a 30 minutes. To just build up the kind of robots more, like Wheeljack, RC, their relationship, the Maximals' relationship with each other. That's why I'm just hoping for future sequels. We just get more development of them. Like, this isn't just a one-off thing. We get more beasts. We get more beasties. We get more of them. I overall enjoyed it. I think the film is not going to win everybody over, but it makes me more optimistic about the future. No pun intended. That sounds stupid. Even Bumblebee wasn't a perfect movie, but it was definitely a push. And I feel like this movie needs to push itself just a bit more, because it felt like a lot of things were changed last minute, just to kind of like... It felt like they're too scared to make a drastic change.
Similar to what Lewis said, is just... The self-contained story is probably a better idea, because it doesn't feel like you're trying to set something up. It's like you're trying to introduce a lot of things all at once. And you don't give things like
Because
space
that's
to
what
breathe.
happened with DC and that went wrong.
You know, I would recommend this film. I would say it's a good summer blockbuster movie. Definitely watch it instead of The Flash.
Watching Indiana Jones while you're there.
I kind of had no expectations as well. Maybe that's why we all kind of enjoyed it so much, because we weren't expecting... We still had issues with it. No Transformers movies
I
ever
wasn't
been
expecting it
perfect.
to be bad, but I just went there thinking, you know nothing about this, just enjoy it for what it is. It's enjoyable.
Yeah, it's enjoyable, and it's a stir in the right direction, but they just need to commit to that reboot timeline, because fans...
Sort of did-
We're getting into a point now where fans are really confused. Even though Stephen Caple Jr. has said it out loud that it's a reboot, and then people are even questioning what a reboot means. They need to make it obvious. They need to make it obvious what this new series is, and it feels like it's confused. It feels like this film's going through its teenage phase.
It's struggling with its identity.
Yeah, exactly. It's struggling with its identity, and it needs to figure it out, especially for the second movie. And I think that would...
Out of that.
Yeah, exactly. You need to step out of that shadow. Don't hold yourself back. Commit to new ideas. Stop hip-hopping. Just go in a straight line. Come back in 2 years from now where we will be reviewing the next Transformers movie. Actually, we'll be talking about Transformers 1.
Dawn of the Beast.
Yeah, there's a Transformers movie coming out next year. It's an animated movie. It's going to be focused on Cybertron. So we will see Megatron again.
Shit, I'm not going to watch that.
Yeah, you will.
No.
You're coming with me.
Yeah, fucked.
Well, you want it because Chris Hemsworth's going to be Optimus Prime now.
I don't give a fuck about him.
I'm gonna be busy.
Now he's going to go watch the next Fast and the Furious. It'll be Fast and Furious 89.
Transformers, the fast.
Transformers. Family.
Transformers, the fam.
Anyway, guys, this has been Cam.
Lewis.
And for more updates on Transformers Rise of the Beast, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that notification bell to get all updates instantly.
Don't do that.
Don't do any of those things you just said.
Whoa, guys.
Boycott this film.
Boycott it.
I hate you, lot.
I'm serious about family.
I'm also not fat, you bog.